Welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast, where leadership aligns with principles. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host, and I couldn't be more delighted to have my friend, colleague, Brandon Hetrick, Vice President, Private Client Services of Hub International right here in Orange County. Thank you, Brandon, for coming on the show, and thank you for being such a good support over the years for me and some of our clients that we share mutually. I really appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Ralph. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to be here with you. I've been looking forward to this. Very exciting.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Brandon, said that our audience can get a little bit of a feel about who Brandon Hetrick is. Can you take us through your personal and professional journey and take us right up to today and maybe somewhere where it started?
Of course. It has been quite the journey looking back on it. I was born and raised in Newport Beach in Costa Mesa in this area. Um, I went to school here locally. Graduated college from UC Irvine. I have stayed in the bubble quite literally as long as I could, I guess, and I'm still here. And when I graduated school, when I graduated college, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, like a lot of younger graduates. I had a very good friend whose father was an insurance agent with State Farm. I spoke with him, as I was a lot of people at the time, and I got connected with some people at State Farm. I started my insurance journey there. I think, like a lot of people who get into the insurance industry, it's not your intention, but once you're in for quite a long time, if not for your entire career. So I spent the formative years of my career, the first 10 years or so, with State Farm, working in Corona Del Mar. I got to know the high net worth private client personal line space pretty well in that area. Being a local kid, I had a lot of contacts and a lot of people I knew, a lot of peers who were starting their careers and buying homes, gaining gaining wealth, so to speak. So that kind of helped me cut my teeth in the insurance world. About 10 years after starting that, I went to another firm that you know well, Tutton Insurance Services, here in Orange County. I worked for Bill Tutton, who was just a great man to work for in my entry into the independent broker world. I got to learn that space. I met up with and started working with my account executive, Mary Beth LaBarbera, who is still with me to this day, 15 years later or so, which has been amazing. She puts up with all my stuff and keeps me in line. So I started building my book with Tutton, getting to know you, other COIs outside of the just State Farm direct writer world, and have continued on in my career. I have recently transitioned from Assured Partners, which acquired Tutton Insurance, to Hub International, and we've been here for a little over a month now. It's been a wonderful journey so far. I'm getting to know everyone and really liking it. Mary Beth is here with me, and we're very excited for what the future is going to bring here, especially in the private client insurance space.
Yeah, maybe speak a little bit about that. One, for our audience, a COI is a center of influence.
Correct. Sorry.
Um, and so, as a financial advisor, I have clients that often have needs to have their automobile, homeowners, and excess liability policies reviewed. And Bill Tutton and Brandon have been wonderful resources helping several of our clients, a number of our clients, both evaluate what they have and potentially then find the right home for their coverages to make sure they have the right adequate coverages, integrating the right thresholds and limits. And all that has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation and a wonderful journey for us to work together. When you think, Brandon, about the concept of integrity, what comes to mind for you as you think about it in your world?
Well, the first thing that I think of, as I know you do too, in this space where we are working together, specific advisors, financial advisors, insurance advisors, risk advisors, and we're collaborating. Um, our name is so important. You only have one of those. Brandon Hetrick with Hub, Ralph Adamo with Integrity Wealth Management, whoever it might be, the integrity that comes with that name is really all we have. It's so important to do right by the client, whatever that means. I know you have asked me to step in and review insurance for multiple clients that we have not actually asked to make a change to our brokerage because they were in the right spot. We might make some recommendations for things they can do, but it wasn't going to benefit them to change insurance carriers. Um, I think that's a great example of it. It's doing right by the client. The most important thing is what is best for the client, and if you keep that in mind, everything else will work itself out. So I think that's step one in our world for being for operating with integrity.
Any other steps that follow closely behind that, Brandon, you'd like to share if we had the gave a
Absolutely.
moment? Yeah,
So one thing I've learned over the years is also try to stay away from favors. Favors can get you in trouble, especially in my world. Trying to figure out how to get something covered or things like that is we have to operate with um, our principles and our values intact. And if something can't be done, if something is going to be, if there is some bad news, get it out of the way, get it explained to the client, explain why, and then move on with the solution. But you know, keeping that honesty, integrity, and not trying to do what I call favors really goes a long way in keeping that integral relationship, that honesty intact. The other thing I would say is also knowing your clients, and that's kind of twofold. One is knowing what the client's needs are, talking to them, what they're looking for, what is important to them, but also it's important to have clients that value integrity and value what we do. And when you have clients that are not in that same vein, maybe it's a client you don't want to work with. I have quote unquote fired clients because they weren't the right fit, and it was gonna, it was a situation where I could see it getting me into trouble because their values didn't align with mine. So I think that's important as well when you're dealing with your clients. It's not just integrity and values on your end, but also on the client's end.
yeah, for sure. It's bilateral relationship in terms of mutual respect and mutual value systems. If not, we could collapse under that weight in no time for sure.
Absolutely. It's again, you've got to know your clients. And as advisors, we really should know our clients. That's it's all about the relationship. So if you don't know them and what their values are, then what are we doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. When this is interesting because you had said, you don't always set out to get into the insurance industry, but once you're in, kind of the vaccination takes. Take me back to that point in time or that moment in time where the light bulb went off and you said, geez, I may not have set out to be in the insurance industry, but I'm awfully comfortable and happy that I'm in it. What was that like? And do you remember that point and moment in time when that started to resonate for you?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think there's been a few of those moments throughout my career. Honestly, I think one when I started my career with State Farm, I was actually working for an agent who was based in Chronomar. He was looking at, he was kind of semi-retired. So once I kind of got the lay of the land, I was able to get in there, really get to know the book of business, really get to know what it took to kind of run your own book. Um, and once that clicked, and I think that was probably, a year or so into my journey. And I also saw the freedom, and I don't mean freedom for time. I mean, that's part of it, but the freedom to run your own business, so to speak. That's when I thought, hey, there's really something here, and you can make a good career and a good living, and you're helping people. Especially once I got to know the clients I brought in, the clients that were already there. I like to think of myself very much as a people person. So that just really, you know, it really spoke to me. And again, I'm in my at that point I'm in my early to mid 20s, and most of my peers and friends who I'd grown up with had moved back to the area and were starting families and buying houses, and so I was able to help them, and that felt very important and very good. And most of them reached out to me. It wasn't me knocking on my friends' doors to ask if I could do their insurance. It was them coming to me, which is how you want it to be. Um, so I think that was the initial point where I realized, hey, this there's something here. This could be a career. Um, I got a little bit jaded at the end of my tenure with State Farm because they made some changes to their new agent contracts, and I kind of read the writing on the wall, realized it was time to get out and look at the independent broker channel where I'm working with multiple insurance companies rather than just State Farm or Farmers or Allstate, whatever it was. Um, so I was out there talking to different people. I was introduced to Bill Tutton. They were looking to start up a personal lines division. It was a large commercial insurance, P&C, and employee benefits brokerage, but they had no real personal lines presence. So I kind of took the leap of faith and jumped there. My account executive, Mary Beth, started about 3 months after I did. I mean, you talk about the stars aligning because she started right after I did. I'm getting to know the world of the independent brokerage. She came from that world, but was forced to find a new job. And we've been together for 15 years. So it really, truly was a blessing. I think, I thank God every day that we're together. But it was the same kind of timing. It was about a year or so after I'd been there. My feet were wet, so to speak. I was bringing clients over, um, and I saw the difference between where I started with State Farm and where I was now on the independent side of things. And my book was very small. I was still trying to build it because you can't take a State Farm client and just move them over to an independent broker and keep them with State Farm. You have to rewrite them. So it was a process. You have to write them with a new insurance carrier. Um, so as I started building traction with that, and again seeing that independence that Bill offered me and the industry offered me to um, write the business I wanted to write, to work with the people that I wanted to work with. Again, it just like re-energized me that this is the place I want to be. This is how we're going to build a career. Um, after about 7 years, Bill wanted to retire. His exit strategy was to sell to another broker, and he did to Assured Partners right about the same time that COVID happened. So that was definitely an interesting period in time. But as we all know, we made it through. And coming out of that, it was again very much the same thing. Things were great with Assured Partners, and I could see the trajectory of my career. I could see how the book was growing, how my clientele was responding to Mary Beth and I, to our support at Assured Partners. And I was loving life, so to speak. I mean, things felt great. It just, again, it's one of those moments in time where you realize, and it was probably about 2023, 2024. Some things happened within the industry with some other people that I was connected with at Assure Partners, and it just reiterates that you've chosen the right field, and this is kind of where this field is where you belong. Again, there's been multiple points throughout my career where this has happened, and I think that's a good sign. And it also lets you know you're doing the right thing. I would imagine you have kind of some of the same, stories, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. There's confirmation, inflection points, reconfirmations, and reconfirmations that this is the right career to be in. I say this to our clients. I'm sure you embody it with these longer term relationships you enjoy. Is that we're on a shared journey and a shared future with these clients, and this isn't a job, this isn't a career, this is literally a lifestyle that we embark upon.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the way to put it. And especially in, what you and I both do, we're not talking about a one-time sale. We're talking about a hopefully a lifelong relationship, where we get to know these people, we get to know their families, we get to know what's important to them, and coming back to the integrity, theme that we've got here, and your question about that, how can you keep up a relationship like that with the right clientele when you aren't operating with those values? The only way to, it's almost like your friend group. You want to surround yourself with like-minded, at least from a value standpoint, people with
Absolutely.
like-minded values. Maybe you have differing opinions on politics or sports or whatever it is, but from a value standpoint, we're all in line. And it's the same thing with our clients. It's easy to just take any old client that walks in the door, but when you're trying to build a long-term relationship, you want to be aligned.
You pretty much short circuited and answered the question about the where integrity plays a role with client loyalty. When we have integrity with them and they with us, we don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to be clients tomorrow, because what we've done today has impacted them properly. And we got to remember that failure is not an option in what you and I do. Success can be the only outcome. The stakes are too high for us to fail something here.
Correct. That is the absolute perfect way to put it. Failure is not an outcome, or failure is not an option.
No,
Um,
absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry, friend.
no, I was just going to say, in that, that loyalty, um, that comes through operating, your business and your practices the right way. Not only does it keep that client as a long-term client, but it leads to referrals, it leads to other introductions, and it snowballs. It also goes back to what I say, no one intends to get into insurance, but once you're in it, and it's kind of that same thing. It's in the insurance world, I think people tend to stick, who are good at it, because you you develop relationships. um, I've been in this long enough, I've worked with you long enough, Ralph. um, Clients see that, other centers of influence see that. I know you experience the exact same thing. It's a snowball that continues to grow and build, and you can't stop it. That momentum is unstoppable.
Right. By doing the right thing.
Just by doing the right thing.
By doing the
That's
right
the
thing
exact
time
way
and
to put
time
it.
again. Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking about the right thing, what if we turned it on its head and we evaluated for a moment? I love to do this with each guest, is to ask, is there a story you can share on an encounter, either with an individual, a client, a peer, a competitor, in which there was a lack of integrity, and how you had to thread the needle and survive and navigate through and around that situation?
Sure. Unfortunately, I think it happens enough that, um, there's multiple examples. I just think of one, situation, and it was with a client. It's, something I referenced earlier. It was a client who I don't think shared the same values that we do. And there was a claim situation that started going south from um, no fault of the carrier, no fault of us. Unfortunately, claims in this industry they're never fun to go through. You can have the best insurance in the world and get everything handled and be put back whole just the way you were, but you still had to go through a car accident, a damage to your home, things like that. There's still something bad that happened to trigger the claim. So they're never easy. In this situation, the individual client, I think, started looking for some things on the claim side that just were not proper and appropriate. Um, we were we were fortunate enough to have a good claims advocacy team on our end. With this specific type of risk, we also had a very good advisor specific to that exact type of risk, um, who helped out a lot, knew that industry very well, and the insurance carrier, their claims team was excellent, and they handled it well. But what that showed me is that this was time to break off this relationship. After this claim, was resolved, the client started kind of revealing their true colors. And there had been signs along the way over the, I mean, it was an 8-10 year relationship. There had been many signs along the way that this just was not the right way to go with the way this one claim, and it was the only claim that we had had, but looking at all the other examples that, I kind of thought of through the years going back after I was sitting and examining this and what this client was asking for that just didn't feel right. And I thought, if we've got another one, we're just opening ourselves up to a whole lot of problems here. So even though there was, some value in that client, some monetary value, it was not worth the risk. And, we had to make the tough decision to sever the relationship. In a professional and helpful way. We steered them because, again, we want to do what's right by the client. We steered them in a direction that they could keep coverage in place and move everything over. There was no rush, no deadline, but it was, hey, it's time to have a conversation about this. We think you're better off served somewhere else, and we're happy to help you do that however you need to, but this needs to happen at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never fun when we're in those situations and trying to manage around and through them. Thank you for sharing that. Brandon, when you think about young Brandon in business and versus the seasoned Brandon today, and you think about some of the things that have been very helpful, the insights, the tips, the things that you keep in your, kind of your mindful pocket about, boy, these are things that I'm glad I remember and do. And if you were to share with our young audience, what are some of those insights and tips that served as catalysts for your success and accelerants on your career?
Well, I think first off, and it's old fashioned and it's simple, but there's no excuse for hard work, and time and effort. I mean, when you're young and you're starting out and you're building something, whatever that career is, there is no excuse, or there's no substitute for the time and the hard work you put in. And what's so interesting is that is really the point in your life where you have the time and energy to do that when you're young. Now, it doesn't mean, you know, you don't have that as you move on, but it changes, it evolves. So first and foremost, I just think get in there, do the work, spend the time to get to know your industry, to know your clients, to meet people. All of that takes time and effort, and there's just no substitute for that. The other thing, I would say, and obviously it's a continuing theme here, is get to know the clients that you are working with, whatever that field is, because that personal relationships are so important in what we do. And, I think a lot of that goes away. It's so easy to have an email or a Teams meeting or a phone call. Although a phone call seems so much more personal nowadays than so many other forms of contact. But, getting to know the client, however that is, and getting to know the people you're working with, whether they're clients, they're other centers of influence, they're advisors, mentors, whatever it is just of such important. It's of such import now that I think it needs to really be highlighted and kept in mind for young people, especially.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Brandon, when I'm thinking about the folks out there listening in, if any of them want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. Well, you can always call my cell. It's always available to my clients and to prospects and anyone that I can help with. That number is 949-887-8625. I can also be reached by email, Brandon.Hetrick, Hetrick, at Hub Private Client. And then I'm easy to find on social media, on LinkedIn specifically. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. If you just search up Brandon Hetrick, you'll find me, and trying to connect with people there. So I'm pretty easy to find if you really want to.
Well, Brandon, it's been a delightful conversation. Thanks for being a wonderful colleague and a support to our mutual clients. We've been here with Brandon Hetrick, the Vice President, Private Client Services, Hub International. Thank you for your professionalism, your integrity, and your hard work on our client situations. I really appreciate you. Anyone out there listening, if you would like to think through being a guest on one of our future shows, reach out to our office at 949-955-1188. And thank you, Brandon, for being on the Power of Integrity podcast, where leadership aligns with principles. You've been a delightful guest. I've really enjoyed our conversation this past half hour.
Thank you, Ralph. I've enjoyed it as well, and it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc.